This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
This is a big deal. Fossil fuels have saved millions of lives.
That is not the way a federal government should operate.
These are 90% issues in public polling.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
A change in climate change policy. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. A big announcement today from the head of the EPA.
This is a big deal. Today, the Trump EPA has finalized the single largest act of deregulation in the history of the United States of America, referred to by some as the holy grail of federal regulatory overreach.
EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin talking about a rollback of what's known as the endangerment finding. That's a 2009 Obama-era determination which demonized so-called greenhouse gases and launched a series of climate regulations on vehicle emissions and other aspects of daily life. President Trump.
Fossil fuels have saved millions of lives and lifted billions of people out of poverty.
Trump says the change will wind up saving Americans hundreds of billions of dollars. Authorities in southern Arizona in day 12 of their search for the mother of Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie. CBS's Andres Gutierrez is in Tucson.
Savannah Guthrie has posted yet another Instagram clip in which there is a caption that says, "Our lovely mom, we will never give up on her. Thank you for your prayers and hope," and some home videos.
Investigators have a forensics team going over Nancy Guthrie's residence. They're also waiting on DNA test results on a pair of black gloves found near Nancy Guthrie's house that appeared similar to gloves her suspected assailant wore, as captured on Guthrie's Ring video camera before it was disabled. Que Pasa and El Paso. There are now reports that it was a U.S. military test that led to the airspace around the El Paso, Texas airport being temporarily closed this week. According to many outlets now, the Pentagon had decided to test an anti-drone laser weapon without coordinating it with the FAA. The sudden airport closure irked a lot of folks, including El Paso area Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, who tells CBS,
That is not the way that the federal government should operate.
This man was among hundreds of air travelers impacted by the sudden shutdown.
This is a shocker. It really is. Complete shock.
Several federal lawmakers shocked, too. They're demanding answers from the Pentagon and the FAA on exactly what happened and why. ICE out of Minnesota. We've heard that plenty of time in recent weeks from anti-ICE protesters in that state. Soon they will, at least to some degree, get their wish. Border Czar Tom Homan today saying the ICE surge operation there is coming to an end because it accomplished its intended goal and that they did it as sensitively as possible.
During the surge operation, ICE has not arrested anybody inside a hospital. We have not arrested anybody inside of a school, an elementary school. We have not arrested anybody inside a church.
Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison.
ICE's own data shows that 77% of those it has detained in Minnesota have no criminal record at all.
That's not all we heard from Ellison today. He was among officials testifying on Capitol Hill today, where he locked horns big time with Republican Josh Hawley over alleged fraud in Minnesota, including some that allegedly involves Ellison.
They solicited money from you. They solicited help from you.
That's also wrong.
They came to your office.
No,
it was your official office. You met with them for 54 minutes.
No,
they asked you for help. You pledged it to them, and they talked repeatedly about money.
The two clashed multiple times during that hearing. It was nearly a party line vote, but the House yesterday passing what's known as the SAVE Act, aimed at saving election integrity by requiring ID for voter registration and voting. House Speaker Mike Johnson tells Fox News,
These are 90% issues in public polling, and 70% of Democrats agree that it should be the law. Only one House Democrat voted for it.
But Democratic strategist Alicia Johnson tells CNN it would just amount to an old-fashioned poll tax.
It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID, the reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country.
That measure now heads to the Senate. Congresswoman Nancy Mace says the redactions in the Jeffrey Epstein files include people on both sides of the political aisle, famous people, prime ministers, and more. Mace's comments came during an appearance on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show after lawmakers were given the opportunity to review the DOJ's unredacted files. You haven't heard much in the news lately about it, but the protests against the Iranian government are still happening. Voice of the Martyrs Vice President Todd Nettleton says for the first time in modern history, Christians have a chance at exercising their faith in public if the government is overthrown.
It's a very difficult place to get Bibles into. I heard just yesterday that Voice of the Martyrs was able to get 100,000 Bibles into Iran last year in spite of all the upheaval that's going on. So it is a very challenging place to be a follower of Christ, and yet there is so much hunger for the gospel.
Nettleton says the tide is changing in Iran.
These Iranian people who are saying the government doesn't work, therefore Islam doesn't work, they're also asking, well, if Islam doesn't work, what does? What are the alternatives? What are the other things that could provide me with peace in my heart, that could set a better direction for my family, for our country? So there is an openness to the gospel.
You can learn more about Voice of the Martyrs' work inside Iran at persecution.org. Finally, Ukrainian skeleton racer Vladislav Heraskevich is out of the Olympics after he refused to stop wearing a banned tribute helmet. It shows the faces of more than 20 Ukrainian athletes killed as a result of the Russian invasion.
We didn't violate any rules. Rule 50, political propaganda, discriminational propaganda, or racial propaganda is definitely not about this helmet.
The IOC says the helmet violated a ban on using your gear to make political statements. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, we'll have a recap of some of our top area stories and highlights from today's Faith Under Fire.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Our call for tonight, leftover flurries early, and then just some patchy clouds overnight. Cold, low temperatures dropping to about 10. Tomorrow, some sunshine with high temperatures around 30. It'll be cloudy tomorrow night. There'll be a touch of snow or some flurries in the air. Then on Saturday, clouds break for some sunshine with high temperatures generally in the 30s.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's budget on the table now. The governor has missed the mark in lowering the cost of living in the Empire State.
This budget does not make life more affordable.
That's the contention of Republican State Senator Rob Ord. Anyway, this year's budget is $260 billion, $8 billion more than last year.
That is almost as large as Texas and Florida's budget put together. We spend 1.5 times what California spends per resident. So the question I think a lot of New Yorkers have to ask is, why does it cost so much more for us to run our government? What are we getting for that?
Nearly 40% of the New York State budget comes from the personal income taxes we pay. The budget is due April 1st, but Kathy Hochul has yet to have an on-time budget since she took office. It was a rare scene today. The FBI and DEA seen outside of a pharmacy in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Agents seen carrying boxes to their vehicles from Pocono Pharmacy 2. The Philadelphia FBI field office says the agency is conducting a court-authorized law enforcement activity, but they didn't go beyond that with any details. Today marks the 17th anniversary of one of the darkest days ever in Western New York, the crash of Colgan Air Flight 3407. Here's Family Life's Dee Haley.
The flight from Newark, New Jersey to Buffalo, New York ended when the plane crashed into a home in Clarence Center. Lawmakers introduced air safety legislation yesterday ahead of the tragic anniversary. U.S. Representatives Tim Kennedy and Nick Langworthy have introduced the Safe Flights for Passengers and Crews Act to enhance safety standards for charter airlines. In a statement released yesterday, the lawmakers said the bill will close a loophole that allows certain airlines to operate under lower safety standards than other commercial airlines. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Dee. Well, after weeks of freezing temperatures, we're going to be flirting with 50 toward the middle part of next week. Great news for most of us, but Coast Guard Captain Wyatt Davis says rivers, ponds, creeks, and streams are also going to become a public safety risk.
No such thing as safe ice. What was good the day before might not be that good today.
He says a word to the wise: if you're near any body of water toward the second half of this upcoming President's Day weekend,
avoid ice that has snow on top of it. Avoid ice around inlets and outlets of large bodies of water. Avoid any kind of ice near current water, such as rivers and creeks.
Good advice there. Finally, gentlemen, start your engines to the nearest florist. Florists across the region trying to keep Valentine's Day affordable, though they say there are some tariff impacts this time around. This Northeast Pennsylvania shop, for example, says it's impacting almost everything in the store.
We're getting not only the tariffs on all the cut flowers, but all of the glassware we bring in, all our vases from China and so forth.
The impact on the tariffs has been a little bit of an issue for us. Luckily, a lot of our suppliers are willing to split the cost with us.
Brian McCarthy's part owner at McCarthy Flower Group in Wilkes-Barre. The U.S. has tariffs against Ecuador and Colombia. Both of those countries raised their minimum wages this year, and those things are combining to impact the cost of flowers.
On every $50 sale that we make, we probably are absorbing $3 to $4 in increased cost to us that we didn't deal with prior to the minimum wage increase and the tariff add-ons.
McCarthy says despite the hit to his business, this Valentine's Day they're doing their best to try to keep costs down.
Probably go a couple years absorbing it, and then we'll have to take some serious looks at some price increases down the road. But I'm not a big fan of price increases. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, nobody's a fan of those. America spends $2.6 billion on Valentine's Day alone for flowers. Up next, highlights from today's Faith Under Fire.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm your host, news anchor Sarah Harnish. With me today, Alliance Defending Freedom's Senior Counsel, Matt Bowman. We're talking pharmacists' rights. A few weeks ago, quietly, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services made a huge decision that affects the religious freedom of tens of thousands of pharmacists across America. This wasn't a court ruling. It was an order directly from the department that oversees our health system across the country. So, Matt, can you tell me what happened with this decision?
Well, this dates back to the Biden administration trying to force all kinds of people around the country to be involved in abortion after it got upset when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. In our lawsuit, the first stage was that the Biden administration tried to ask the judge to dismiss our case, to say we're perfectly allowed to order pharmacists around the country to dispense abortion drugs. And our judge issued a great ruling. He said, I'm not going to dismiss this case. You guys have basically politicized the federal regulatory process. Congress didn't give you the right to issue these mandates, and I'm going to let this pharmacist move forward with his case. And what the Biden administration did at that point was pretty squirrely. They didn't repeal their own mandate. They kept it in place, but they kind of changed the word and muddied the water and said, well, we won't take the mandate away, but maybe we won't violate the rights of Christian pharmacies, and maybe we will, and we're not really sure. And so the whole situation was kind of in limbo for a while. So what was great about what happened a couple weeks ago with the Trump administration now running the Health and Human Service Department is that they just repealed this mandate completely. And they said, we are not in the business of telling pharmacies that they have to dispense and stock abortion drugs. Because of that, because of other reasons, other priorities that the Trump administration has of protecting conscience and religious liberty, they're going to take this mandate down entirely.
So it's 180 degrees the other direction. What happens now?
Hopefully, what we're going to see is that the Health and Human Services Department in the Trump administration is now going to head in the other direction. So I've been working at Alliance Defending Freedom for 19 years, but I took 4 years off and worked at HHS in the first Trump administration. And HHS has a division, and their sole job is to protect the consciences of healthcare professionals, doctors and pharmacists, and hospitals and clinics. And what we've seen in this first year is very encouraging. They have announced that they are investigating a lot of hospitals and healthcare institutions around the country that are violating the religious beliefs of people who just want to work as nurses and doctors and pharmacists. And we're hoping that they will be able to help create or rebuild a healthcare industry that is fully and broadly respectful of conscience and religious liberty and just basic ethics, so that people around America can go into the healthcare field, you can go to medical school, you can go be a nurse, you can go be a pharmacist, and you don't have to worry about whether you're going to lose your job or not be able to practice medicine and serve patients because of your faith.
That's our Sarah Harnish with Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel Matt Bowman. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Jesus tells a sobering story in the parable of the unforgiving servant. Hi, I'm Rob West with your Faith and Finance Minute. In the parable, a servant is forgiven an unpayable debt. But moments later, that same servant refuses to forgive a fellow servant who owes him a small amount. The result is judgment, not because the first debt was forgiven, but because the servant failed to live in light of that forgiveness. Jesus' point is clear. Those who truly understand grace are transformed by it, and that includes how we handle money. When we cling tightly to what we're owed, whether dollars, repayment, or fairness, it reveals a heart that's forgotten the mercy we've received. God has forgiven us a debt we could never repay. Faithful stewardship flows from gratitude, generosity, and grace, not entitlement. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
Thanks, Rob. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report. Lassie! It was a script right out of an old Lassie show. Lassie! The story of a dog helping police find a missing child after weather with Kevin.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life Regional Weather Forecast. Lake effect snow sure piled up the fluff across parts of our region over the past 24 hours, but it's winding down now. And as we head into the long Valentine's President's Day weekend, we do so with fairly quiet conditions, moderate temperatures, and a little sun. Our call for tonight, leftover flurries early, and then just some patchy clouds overnight, cold, low temperatures dropping to about 10. Tomorrow, some sunshine with high temperatures around 30. It'll be cloudy tomorrow night. There'll be a touch of snow or some flurries in the air. Then on Saturday, clouds break for some sunshine with high temperatures generally in the 30s.
And bring that thaw on, please, Kevin, but careful on the ice. Thank you very much, sir. And finally at 5, if you've never seen it, Lassie was an old-time TV series starring a collie named Lassie who, as the cliche goes anyway, was always helping to get young Timmy out of trouble. And that's what it felt like recently for real in Louisville, where several police officers were combing a neighborhood searching for a missing youngster when, seemingly out of nowhere, a small dog appeared, desperate to get one officer's attention. Officer Josh Thompson on his body cam, along with CBS News.
Oh, what's up, dude? There's a dog. Where's he at? Let's go. They led me all the way back to the backyard. At that point, I'm thinking, okay, this kid's in his backyard.
And sure enough, he was trapped inside of a locked car. Officer Thompson didn't need much time, though, to spring him.
Grab and pull it. There we go! I don't think I've ever seen a happier kid in my life. He jumped out of the car, bear hugged my neck, and wouldn't let go.
Good job, buddy. Lassie found him.
Man, I don't know where the dog came from, but it was a blessing from God that day.
The dog hero of this story is a mystery, too. Officer Thompson's been patrolling that neighborhood for a couple of years, says he'd never seen that dog before, and hasn't seen him again since. But like he said, truly a blessing from God on that day. And that's the world we live in for Thursday, February 12th, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.